Welcome to a new episode of Jews in the World. I'm very pleased that I have with me today Katina Perrin, who is going to tell us about a Jewish telegraphic agency fellowship for teens. But first, I just want to say that she works in the field of teens and journalism and has for many years. And she's also the author of a book. I'm going to read the title so I get it right. A comic book style textbook, which is a newshound's guide to student journalism, and it's available on Amazon. Okay, let's start, Katina. So I saw this press release about a JTA Journalism Fellowship, which is due January 10th. And I just got all excited. I'll maybe talk about it later because I was a teen journalist. Okay, so take it away. Tell us how this program started. Now's your time.
Sure. Well, thanks for having me. So the JTA Teen Journalism Fellowship started about a year and a half ago. So we've had three cohorts since we started. Each cohort is about 15 students. We're going to be starting our next one in January, and that's what the application process is open for right now. And we accept applications from 15 to 18-year-old high school students that are US based. So if you are spending a semester abroad somewhere, but you're originally from the US, you can apply. We're just not, for the last few cohorts, we had an international, and we're just trying to test it out, what it's like just to have a US based community. So we're looking for teens who want to write about and interested in journalism, the teen Jewish community in the US. So we've probably published somewhere between 30 and 40 articles so far in the fellowship, which has been great. And the kids have covered things like, right now, the story we just published this week was about a rural Jewish community in upstate New York. And so the challenges of being a Jewish teen when there's not a lot of Jewish teens around you.
Yes, I saw that article because I grew up in Elgin, Illinois, where I was usually the only Jewish kid in my class. Wait, I think we got a little ahead of ourselves, Katina.
Sure.
Let's tell people, first of all, for people who do not know about JTA's global reach, and I want to go back to when I was a Jewish journalist at a Jewish newspaper in Philadelphia in the 70s. JTA was a wire service then, right? Is it still considered? No, we should explain what a wire service is. That
It's funny. Tell people who don't know JTA, I say it's like the Jewish AP. So it's like the Jewish Associated Press, but they're not just a wire service. They do syndicate their stories out to other publications, but they are part of a larger umbrella organization called 70 Faces Media. So they're part of the Nosher, New York Jewish Week, JTA, all of these are part of this umbrella media organization, Jewish media organization. So part of our goal with this fellowship too is introducing young people to the concept of Jewish media, and giving them a start and giving them kind of a foot in the door in this field.
And so, if I understand it correctly, a student, teen who wrote this article could be in the other publications too, is what I'm trying to say.
Um, yeah,
Maybe.
more so with the on the news side, because most of these stories are pretty newsy. So New York Jewish Week and the Jewish Telegraphic Agency might share content in that way. But there are also other publications that that the stories are syndicated out to, or that see the story and ask to rerun it. We've had a lot of publications reach out and ask to republish the teen story because there's not a lot out there right now that show what's it like to be an American teen Jew. And so these stories really shed light on their experiences. Most are reported stories. A few are first person. We did a first one of our first person pieces. It was about a teen who converted. And so really going through her experiences of why she chose Judaism, what it meant to her, what the experience was like, and really how it fulfilled her. And I think she said something about it being the happiest moment or the best part of her high school experience. So really kind of shedding some light on the situation, also shedding light on the situation of what it's like to, be an American Jew when there's a war going on in Israel. So there's, the teens this last session, didn't sign up to be war reporters, but they kind of turned into it, and they did such a fabulous job of understanding, right? News is something that is news, something that's happening now that wasn't happening before. So many things that were going on there, going on in their lives became news and became something they wanted to report about. And the great thing about teen journalism is that when you can't act, you can write. And so their journalism becomes their form of action and their form of doing something and being involved in the issues that surround them. So it was a really great for them to be able to, pivot a story. One student was writing a story about um, what was it like to visit Israel this summer with all the protests going on? And obviously, after October 7th, that story didn't matter as much anymore. So he turned that story he pivoted into another story about what gap year programs, how are they adjusting, what they're doing instead. And this was his idea. He's the one who wrote me and said, "Hey, I don't think my story is relevant anymore. What if I do this instead?" And so it's really great for them to really kind of be able to develop that news sense, but also be able to do something about an issue and a topic they care so much about.
Okay, wait, we need to say something really important now. According
Yes.
to the press release, the teens do not need any journalism experience to apply. I think this is very, very important.
It's true. What we're looking for the applications are teens who want to tell a good story, and we will help them tell that good story. The key part of that, though, is in the application, we do ask for a story idea or a topic you want to write about. And on the application site online, you'll see there's videos telling you what we're looking for. And so that really does need to be very newsy. It needs to be, again, what's happening now that wasn't happening before and why it matters. So this is more than just a topic. This is something specific that's happening that we can point a finger on. I'm getting a lot of pitches so far that are a little vague or talking about, I want to write about anti-Semitism, which is a good topic, but not a great story idea. So
Exactly.
the goal really is figuring out, like, what is it? Who can you talk to? What will they say? What is different about their lives now or their experiences now than it was, 2 months ago, even? And keep in mind, these stories probably won't run until March at the earliest. So the story has to be relevant in March.
Okay, I think that's a very important. Now, it, according to the information, and you want a diverse group, the person has to have a connection to Judaism. Do they have to be Jewish?
Yes, they have to be Jewish. The teen has to, or at least identify as Jewish. I'll say it that way. The teen has to be a teen who identifies as Jewish.
Okay, even though, for example, teens who've worked on my non-Jewish teens in my hometown of Elgin, Illinois, who've worked on my Holocaust and anti-Semitism projects, they can't qualify, correct? Even though they're
If they're not Jewish, right?
okay, okay. One of the things that I wanted to say, why I think this is so important. First of all, I think journalism is very, very important. I have a BA in journalism from Michigan State. When I was in high school, I had an opportunity. A few of us got to write a weekly news article for our local Elgin Courier News. So it's a very good way to start. It's a very good way to show on your college application what you can do. I do think that I got into Wharton, the MBA program, because of the example of writing that I gave. Just want to say I think it can be very important. But the most important thing, perhaps, is learning to think critically. So your program, which is teaching students how to think critically about a topic and then communicate that.
Right. And I think the writing, I mean, even if your goal isn't to be a journalist, but you're interested in becoming, you have a good story idea, you're interested in becoming a better writer, a better communicator, this is a great path towards that. I mean, the idea of being a critical thinker is really important. I also think of it as journalism does such a great job of helping young people figure out how the world works around them and figuring out their place in that and how they can contribute. It makes young people better citizens. It makes them better, more media literate, more news literate. And there's a process of journalism. It's almost like the scientific method, right? You have this idea, you do the reporting, you write out what you find, you're learning how to be objective or, slash unbiased
Yes, we seem to have
or neutral, right?
we seem to have a frozen moment here.
Is my audio okay?
It went off.
Okay, I think we're back.
Yeah, you're back. Keep going.
Sorry. So journalism really teaches people works around them and how to find out answers, how to pick up the phone and call people, how to communicate, how to ask questions, how to just really
I'm going to have to continue
think
this.
that's really important, especially right now.
I just want to say that when I was a features editor at the Michigan State News in college, I'll never forget this. A reporter for me said, I said, I don't know the reporter's name. I said, you need to explain this. And she said, well, Phyllis, you know what it means. And I said, yes, I know what it means, but the reader doesn't necessarily. And I think that's one of the most important skills that you are teaching these students.
Right. It's actually really interesting. I'm actually not Jewish. And so there's a lot of the things, and we don't write necessarily just for a Jewish audience. And so for the JTA fellowship. And so there's a lot of things that teens are writing about. And I have to be like, I don't know what this is. And I don't know if it's because I'm not Jewish or if it's just because the sentence is unclear. And so it's great. They weren't, when they hired me, it wasn't thinking, oh, let's hire someone who's not Jewish to run this. But it's a great kind of sampling of the audience. Though I was reminded today that even though I'm not Jewish, I've lived in New York for 23 years. So like I'm Jew adjacent.
That's cute. That's very cute. And I want to say this about the skills that students taking this program, even if they don't want to be journalists, it can help them with their college applications. I'm the author of a book on Amazon called How to Succeed in High School and Prep for College. And a part of it is about writing your college essay. And one of the things that I was reminded of is a student will think, oh, I'll write my college essay on anti-Semitism. No, way too big a topic. You have to think about a very narrow topic and say interesting things about it and not just generalizations. So I think that this program is just fascinating. I would highly encourage uh, students to apply, teachers to tell their students about it. Do you have any other advice that?
I mean, even if you're watching this, share this with your synagogue. If you have a synagogue, share this with whatever community centers that are around you. Chances are there's somebody who knows a teen who might be interested in this program. And it's really, I will say it's about the teens last time wanted me to make sure the new teens knew this. It's about during the reporting process, it'll take about 3 to 5 hours of your time a week. And then during the editing, it's more like 1 to 3 hours. And we are aiming for you to write 2 pieces during the course of the fellowship.
Right. I wanted to make that clear. We're not talking about this every week. Also, they get paid for a published piece.
Exactly. You get paid for the published pieces and it's done very independent style. So I'm treating you as if you were a freelancer.
Right.
We do 3 virtual meetings in the beginning of the session, in the middle, and at the end. We're going to start something new this year, which is really exciting, that we'll have mentors. So we're
Mm.
going to pair you with fellows from previous sessions
Oh,
who can
that's
help
nice.
you along the path. And we'll do a couple rounds of peer editing too, so you get to meet the other and engage with the other teens in the program, because they're all really interesting and very lovely. So we want to make opportunities for you all to meet each other and know each other, and get support from each other as well. But this process really is like very independently run. So you decide on your time when you can do it. My job is to give you deadlines, help you meet those deadlines, and also help make your piece better. There is, so it's a longer process to write a story if you haven't done one, or even if you have, than you think it's going to be. I usually go through at least 5 rounds of edits with the students. And this is all through Google Docs where you'll submit a story. I make my edits in the comments. I send it back. We go back and forth. We do a lot on Slack. So we'll communicate via Slack a lot. But you get a lot of support throughout the process. But it all really begins with that story idea that you put in your application. And for those who have been applying early, again, the deadline is January 10th, 2024. If you get your application in early, there's a chance I may look over it and give you some feedback on your story idea and give you a chance to revise it. So there's an incentive to apply early. And I know a lot of journalists type like to wait till the last minute. We tend to be procrastinators and we tend to hate that about ourselves. But if you get it in early, it gives you a chance to revise your story idea if you need to, which I think is a really helpful process because that's kind of the hardest part, is coming up with what might be a good idea. What I would say for young and old people watching is we on the JTA website, there's we can see all of our stories there. So look at the past stories that we've done to see what new stories might be. And this is a thing, especially for young people. A lot of young people don't read the news as much, even those who want to be a journalist. So, number one advice is to read news. If you want to apply for this fellowship, make sure you read several, not just one or two, but several of the JTA published stories to get a sense of the type of work we do and to see how your story idea fits into that.
That's excellent advice. And I'm laughing because I started reading the Wall Street Journal when I was a journalism degree candidate, and I've never stopped because, right, you have to read good journalism. I wanted to say a couple of things. First, I want to give this email address, but I will also give it in the description. It's teenjournalism@jta.org.
Yep.
That's the email that they should reach you to,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yep.
And then, so that's how they apply. They send,
There's an application page on the website. There's a Google form that you'll fill out to apply. Um, if you want, you can email me and I can send you that link too. I can look it up, the actual application
okay,
website
you'll send it to
right
me and I'll
now.
put it, okay, go ahead. And I'll also put it in the description. And I wanted to say to it, make sure, according to the press release, they can do a film also. Is that correct?
Yeah, we haven't done that yet. We haven't had anyone suggest a video, like a short news video or an audio piece, but we are open to that. If that's where your interests lie in, that's where your skill set lie in, and you want to pitch a news story. Again, this isn't necessarily documentary form.
Right.
So they have to be news-based stories. It can be a feature, but a news feature, that you would do in like 3 minutes. Feel free to suggest that. No one else has pitched that. Everyone's been focused on the writing because that's what most of the work is. But we will take multimedia work too. And I think that's a great way to expand your skill set, especially because there's not that many professional publications that take work from young people. So if you are into doing multimedia and want to do a video or a podcast, please um, mention that in your application, and we'd love to consider that.
Okay, yeah, I wanted to make sure that we got that across. And the other thing I wanted to say about editing, the wonderful thing I think from journalism is to learn to be comfortable with editing, to learn to take, I don't call it criticism, I call it critique in a way. So there are many writers who hate editing. I'm the opposite because for having a journalism background, I know that a piece can always be better than your first draft. Again, you think that you've explained something that isn't. I mean, so this is a tremendous skill that Katina is willing to teach you.
Yeah, I mean, it's my favorite part of this process is editing teams. That's like my favorite part of my job, of my career, is that I get to edit teams and I get to help teams make their story better. So I always think of this as a teamwork experience. And in fact, we had our closing meeting with the teams last week, and I had them record some words of advice for the next group.
Cool.
And one of them said, "Don't don't get too stressed out about your first draft. It's not like you're already in the program, and the first draft, like Katina will help you make it better. And that's what this process is. And it is a huge skill set. You're right, Phyllis. This idea of learning how to be edited. There's so many recommendation letters I've written for programs, for colleges, for whatnot, where I mention how easy a young person was to edit because that can be a challenge. And I definitely have run into both teens and adults who are very hard to edit. But it's a skill set onto itself because you're understanding this is not, you're taking yourself outside of the equation. And
Exactly.
it's really, you're representing the news organization that you're writing for, and we have to communicate X to our readers. They're the ones who we're trying to inform, right? This is journalism is community service. What we're doing is helping people be more informed about their lives around them, helping them make better decisions about their lives. And so we have to make sure when we're writing that the stories fit into that we're really communicating something clearly and also providing information that's as neutral as possible and really giving a full engaging story. And that story part too, the storytellers is really part of this process too. So, sometimes there's like straight up journalism kids. Sometimes there's kids that just want to tell a good story or are interested in this for whatever reason. And what we're looking for, what are those good stories we need to tell? And we can help you tell those stories.
Actually, you just said something else very important. Learning to tell an objective story, learning to take yourself out. You might be on the side of A rather than B, but when you report a story, as a journalist, your goal is to be as objective as possible. And that is a really important skill set too, not just for writing, but when you then read other stories, especially about Israel, et cetera, you need to be able to kind of, what is it called, unpack and
Mhm.
notice. I mean, I actually sent a letter to, not a protest letter, I can't even remember, in which the Washington Post headlines, it was so, I get these, what do you call them, emails.
Letters.
Just the headline was slanted and it drove me crazy. So I wrote back. I didn't get an answer. But again, to be able to recognize how words can slant.
Right. And even just the idea of don't editorialize in a news story. And, I always say the reader should not be able to tell how you feel about a topic by reading your story. And that doesn't mean the story has to be boring or formulaic. It just means you're writing things that are true and verified. And that there is, information to support it. I was just editing a story now where the teen wrote many students, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, well, do we know that many or do we know that some? Like it's, and it sounds very, very nitpicky,
No, it's
but
not.
that's what editors do. And this is how important journalism is when we say every word is true, every word matters, and that you have to pay attention to what you're writing and what you're communicating. We're not doing it to put the pressure on the writer, but we're saying that as a way to understand, like, what journalists, what newspapers sell is essentially trust. And so they need we to betray a news organization's trust is huge. And so we have to make sure our information is verified. So did you talk to many teens? Great, put that in there. Did you talk to some teens? Great, we can use that word instead. So it really comes down to that nitpickiness of it, which means like throughout this process, you'll learn that through as we go through the editing process, as we go through the reporting process. You will have to talk to strangers. That's a big one if you haven't done journalism before. Phyllis and I have never met, and we're talking right now.
Right.
So talking to strangers is a beautiful skill. That might mean gas picking up the phone. So you may have to, ideally you would not be doing email interviews, that you're doing video interviews, that you're picking up the phone and talking to people over the phone that way. But it really is a way to kind of get outside of yourself a little bit. And I know a lot of teens, especially teen journalists, who consider themselves shy. But once they have on their reporter's hat,
Exactly.
reporter's notebook in hand, they become a new person. So it's also a great way to kind of break out of your shyness in order to get the story. Because right, you're telling the stories of other people, and those stories deserve to be heard. So sometimes we have to kind of step up to the plate and do something that's out of character for ourselves in order to help other people tell their stories. So I would encourage you all, if you don't see yourself as a journalist necessarily for those reasons, that there's that little fire inside of you that tells you that you can do this because I know you can do it and you'll have the support to do it. So please apply.
Yes. And there's something else just before we end that I want to say. You also perhaps will learn your own prejudices. So I
Mm.
will give this history lesson because I don't mind saying how old I am. In the 70s, I taught copywriting courses and news writing courses at Temple University Extension in Philadelphia. At the time, I had, believe it or not, Katina, because you're much younger than I am, a collection of articles of how major newspapers, including the Wall Street Journal, portrayed women uh, derogatorily instead of, okay. But this is the fascinating part. So in my course of men and women, college students, teaching them not to do it, I didn't just have to change the men's point of view. I had to change the women's students' point of view because they also didn't realize that they had bought in to that view of women.
Mhm.
And so one of the things that teens may discover, and Katina will correct it, is that they think they're being objective, but they are reflecting society's prejudice or opinions. So this training can be absolutely amazing, and you get paid if you get published. And I'm going to give you I will also put it in the description. So it's jta.org/JTA hyphen teen hyphen journalism hyphen fellowship. I'll also, as I said, put it below. I want to thank Katina. Is there anything else that we need to mention? Just January 10th.
January 10th is the deadline. Please get your application in. Please share this around for the young people that you know, because you never know who might be interested in journalism or writing or just want to give it a chance. And if you have any questions, please email me. Phyllis gave the email address below or before. It was, what was it? teenjournalist@jta.org? No.
Yes, yes. It's wait, teenjournalism@jta.org.
Yeah. Yeah. So email me if you have any questions. Um, And make sure before you apply to watch the video on the application page about what we're looking for in the story idea, because that can make or break your application. So make sure you watch that.
And is it appropriate if you say in your email, showing that you're open to being instructed, that if there's any suggestions to make my application better, I would welcome the suggestions. Is that okay to say?
That's fine. And if you get it in early, then I'll have time to get back to you.
Okay, so take advantage of this. Do it. So I think I guess so much. I thank you for listening. And as I unfortunately have to say at the end of each of these interviews right now, please bring them home.